Hello everyone, welcome back to the extended tree tutorial. This time I wanted to show another approach while also tackling a different style of tree here. So we're going to go in and I'm going to pick this one right here, just grabbing the lasso tool, using Shift L to cycle through the different tool options. So I just wanted the regular lasso tool selection. So we're going to do Control C, I'm just going to copy from this layer, and Control Shift V, I'll paste it right into place. And we're just going to slide this over here. And this time, we're just going to use the silhouette here as a reference point going forward. We're not going to actually use this to paint on. So I'm going to create another layer, and we're just going to create our tree right next to this one. So instead of using the exact guidelines of this tree when we created it, we're just going to basically use it more as an example of how this next one will be created. So start with, I'm just going to grab this circle brush and kind of just kind of follow the guideline of what we had set here before. I'm just basically creating the tree trunk. Nothing too complicated here. And maybe I'll just erase that a little bit. And now maybe I'll shoot a few branches off here and there. I could come back and do these later too. And I'm using the bracket keys right now to modify the brush size. You can also, if you're using a pen, you can, I believe it's right click, let me check, yeah, right click and hold Alt and slide left and right, and that'll give you a brush size. But sometimes for these more minute changes in size, the brackets work a little bit better just to go down 1 point or something like that. So right now I'm just setting up a few little branches sticking out here and there. And I'm actually just going to throw another layer on top of this, and then we're going to choose our green base color for the pine tree that we're doing here. Some sort of pine tree. Maybe we'll shoot it into the blue a little bit, just like that. And now basically I'm just going to kind of go along and create this like this. There's a few ways we could approach this. We could brush it in like this, or we could just use the lasso tool, which maybe I'll use at this time. We're just going to go along and kind of mimic the shapes that I created with the silhouette here. We could modify them from this point, and basically I'm just going to go through and pull them off in different directions like this, so it looks like trees growing out in more than just one direction. And just having these kind of bend up a little bit. Maybe I'll just have a few spots here, a few here. Once I have these all in place, I'm just going to either use the fill bucket, or what I usually prefer, which we're going to hit Shift G to cycle through. I prefer using the gradient tool and just kind of dragging across. If you use the fill bucket, sometimes and I'm dragging across a few different directions just because I use the one with the transparency here. The fill bucket sometimes gives weird lines when it's meeting in two locations, like if there's already some paint in a location. So we're going to deselect with Control D, and I'm just going to go in and just tweak a few of these branches a little bit. And from here, maybe we'll erase a little bit and just add and subtract here and there. And right now we just have really flat basic colors, but we want to take this to another level. So I'm just going to do another layer on top of this and hold Alt and click between those two layers. And now I'm going to make this layer darker, and I'm just going to drag it across. And then from there I'll just come in and just erase some spots. And then maybe I'll just color pick here and add a few highlights in as well, and just pull a few in. And we're starting to get a little bit more depth and stuff. And I'm being pretty loose with this. You could do, some studies of trees and kind of determine what your best approach for that would be, using reference and whatnot. In this case, I'm not really referencing anything, so you would definitely be able to come up with a cleaner design if you're referencing, but this is a good way to kind of interpret from a silhouette to a more final look. And I'm just adding a little bit of detail here and there, just a little bit of I'm kind of thinking the lighting coming from this left side. And maybe I'll take this layer and Control E and merge it down, and then I can just add a few other little leaves and stuff. So there's one way. So let's take this same tree, at least with the same base. I'm just going to duplicate that over here, or maybe we'll move it over here, and I'll move these two layers over just a little bit and give us a little bit more room in the center. So I've got my branch there. I'm going to make another layer, and this time we're just going to take this and just kind of use these as a launching point to create a whole nother tree. And this time though, I'm going to be very loose with it. I'm not using the lasso tool, but I'm just kind of blocking in the shape, kind of feeling out the structure as I move downwards. I'm starting at the top and just kind of creating general form, breaking up shapes. And I'm going to keep these kind of splits between this to make it look like maybe this tree is surrounded or used to be surrounded by a lot of other trees. So it kind of it's not so full all the way up and down, so it's not as thick as some pine trees. If the tree is if the shorter trees tend to not have any competition, but when they're taller like this, they usually have to grow up a lot higher before they can get to their light for nourishment and things like that. So while you're making these trees, you can think about that. And that could even tell a little bit of a story with your tree, where it has, where it's grown up and stuff. And that might actually help you decide what's around it or what it's like around it. So see how this is already getting kind of such a different look, just using a slightly different process and still using kind of the silhouette as a jumping off point. It's essentially the same silhouette, but I'm using a little thicker brush. I'm not using the lasso tool, and I'm having, instead of kind of these swooping shapes, I'm sort of just making it look like scraggly and having little bristles shoot out in every direction, things like that. So you can easily come up with tons of different tree shapes, designs, and things like that super quick. And I'm just gonna kind of miss that little bit over here in the beginning on the left, on the right side here. And I'm just gonna throw a few of those in there. I miss this kind of these center points really pulling out really far. I'm gonna pull that in. I think that'll give our tree a nice distinct shape. And now that we have that, we could use two different approaches to kind of do the lighting on top of this. Let's use the other approach where we actually don't make another layer, but we click this button right here, Lock Transparent Pixels. And I used this previously in another one, and basically what it does is anything I paint within this layer will just stay. So it's almost like a mask too, but it's a little bit easier to use. And I'm just same idea of lighting, kind of just thinking of it from shooting down from the top right here, and just kind of hitting a few areas, and kind of a general, just kind of keeping it really loose, staying zoomed out further. I actually think this second one is a little more successful. Kind of like the colors a little bit better too. I could even pump those colors up a little bit more. Maybe even have a little bit, just a few really bright pine needles here and there, just to kind of bring the focus up to the top. And with the last one, I didn't actually do this, but could give a little bit of lighting. We're going to do it the same way. I'll lock those pixels and give a little bit of lighting along the side here. So I didn't remember to do that, and I'm just thinking maybe it's getting hit a little bit underneath here, and maybe we'll grab a darker color and have that go a little bit to the dark at the base. But there's two really quick approaches to tackling a pine tree, taking it from silhouette to more of a final painted approach, or just basically translating it from a silhouette into a design with color and trying to tackle those in different ways. I really appreciate you stopping by and checking out my tutorial. If you have any comments, leave them below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you really liked it, subscribe and turn notifications on. I'd love to hear what you're thinking about these. If there's anything you'd like to see, And also, once in a while I can't respond to some comments, it just doesn't allow me to. So if I didn't respond to your comment, maybe you have some sort of setting that doesn't allow that to happen, but I have tried to respond. If you have left a post, I respond to pretty much everything I see. At least I try to. Have a great day, and hopefully this helps out. Thanks again, and take care.